Welcome to UK Metals Expo 2025. Can't quite believe it's a year since we were here last and we did two gargantuan podcasts talking to loads and loads of people from across the industry, from within Tata Steel and without. Of course, a lot has happened in that 12 months. Not only have we closed down the last of the heavy end in Port Talbot Steelworks, we've had the new contract for the electric arc furnace, the new contract for the hot rolling mill, the contract for the pickle line. We've had signed an agreement with JCB to supply green steel. And of course, we had the massive moment, which was the groundbreaking event where Mr. Chandrasekharan came over from Tata Group to officially launch the construction work in Port Talbot. So, Abi, a year since we've been here last. How are you feeling about the show this year?
Excited, Tim. Loads has happened in the space of 12 months. You know, we work for a big company and we're part of a big sector. So I'm just looking forward to catching up with familiar faces, new faces, seeing some mentors and peers, women in steel. And there's a networking session tomorrow, and mentoring. So I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah, slightly different format from last year, isn't it? We're only sort of 10 minutes into the event and we've already seen lots of kind of friends and relations from within the company. So I guess our challenge over the next 2 days is to try and pick out some people and talk about some key topics.
Yeah, like you said, there's loads to talk about. I'm sure, people will have a lot more to say than last year. A lot has changed and there's still some key policy asks that we need to push. So, yeah, interested to hear what people have got to say.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that's one of the things that will be different this year, because I think last year, we've announced we're going to build the electric arc furnace and people saying, will they, won't they? We got the support from the government and we were looking forward to contracts and, not looking forward to the closing of the steelworks, but it was momentous. But here we are 12 months later, we've kind of passed that moment. We've had the groundbreaking, we've signed those contracts. And from a Tata Steel perspective, we're in a different place. And I guess the key topics for us this year will be about those policy asks, as you mentioned. So things like energy and public procurement, the tariff issue that's coming up soon, and there is a lot of speakers here, aren't there? There's a lot of speakers, and we're going to have to go through the list and see who we can find.
Yeah, let's do it.
So here we are, the start of day one at UK Metals Expo, and the first person we've run into, old friend of Tata Steel and the pod, Lord Rupert Redesdale. You are chair of UK Metals Expo. We spoke to you last year, I think we spoke to you the year before. Every 12 months, the industry seems to be in a different place. What are you looking forward to from the show this year?
Well, really, there's always crisis in any industry, and you always go, oh my God, this year we've got a problem. There are a few issues coming down the line, of course, in the steel sector, CBAM, trade, levies. But what I like about the show is it's a place where everybody can meet. Everybody can actually say, what's the issues you as a business are facing? So, yes, we'll talk about the industrial strategy. Yes, we'll talk about the big issues. But it's much more, you walk into the show and people are saying hello to each other.
Yeah, they are, and it absolutely is like a big family here within the metals industry, and people move around companies, but they're still in the industry. But we were talking as the introduction to the show earlier that this year feels like it's much more focused on policy. So the political side of impact on the industry, and I know you're talking later on a panel on the industrial strategy. How important is that, not just to Tata Steel, but other metal companies?
It's policy is going to be key. The government's really got to look at industrial strategy and say, do we want a metal sector? How do we want to deal with the metal sector? And it's also getting across to the government that it's not just the big issues, it's all the other companies who are affected by it. It's a classic one. You say, oh, well, perhaps we don't need metal, we'll move to wood. And you go, yeah, but to make wood, you have to use metal. Yeah. So we use metal for everything, and it's looking at the whole of the ecosystem and how some of these policies, like CBAM, are going to affect the smaller users as well.
Yeah, and of course the government's got a lot on its plate. How difficult is it for the metal sector to put its head above the parapet and be noticed and get some attention from government?
I think the government really are taking metal seriously, because the big issues, you've got Scunthorpe, you've got a number of other really important issues. But of course it's got a load of different priorities. It's got to realise, how much does it want to put into this? Yeah. And I think it's really, with the new government, it's really working through and saying, it's not just one issue, it's multiple issues, and there's a cascade effect.
Super. Listen, thanks for joining us. I know you're a busy man. All the very best for the show over the next 2 days. Thanks very much. So we've just had the first session on the first day of UK Metals Expo 2025, and that session was View from the Top. One of our own, Cam Rajput, was interviewing Gareth Stace, Director General, UK Steel. Gareth, long-time friend of the pod. We know each other very well. We know each other's businesses very well. But that was a tub-thumping performance, if I might say. You set out the negative perspective of the state of the steel industry and the challenges of overcapacity across the globe. But you still came across as immensely positive about what has happened recently with the new government and what's coming up for us. Can you just give us a very quick summary of where we are in the steel industry in 2025?
Well, we talk about the word crisis a lot and have done since 2015, on and off. But I think we're in the deepest crisis there is at the moment in the steel sector in the UK. And I don't want to be alarmist, but the numbers speak for themselves in terms of steel production in the UK, steel demand in the UK, that only 30% of that demand is met by the UK producers, so therefore we've really lost market share to importers. So much so that if, in Europe, their market share is 70%, or it's slightly over 70%, and they are screaming from the rooftops. We would give our right arms in the UK to have 70% market share. So we're in a very bad position. But we are going to see, the things that make it bad, i.e. a lot is, as you said, Tim, global overcapacity of steel in the world of 700 million tons of steel. We only use 7 million tons of steel in the UK. And so therefore we're in deep hole of crisis at the moment. There's a lot, the sun is far too up in the sky to think about sunny uplands. What we are thinking about, and you're right, I have to be positive. I can't just do the negative, otherwise we just pack up and go. The positive is that we have a government that really supports our sector, crucially understands our sector and wants to do something. We get on with the trade unions well enough as industry, and therefore industry, government, trade unions working together to deliver a steel strategy later this year. I hope that will be bold enough that will get us back on that road to recovery, but certainly stop us from slipping further into crisis. And the UK government steel strategy, backed by industry and trade unions, can do that. It's the only game in town.
This event this year is a lot about policy and government policy and how it can support the metals industry. But are we not in danger of living in an echo chamber? There's no government here, there's no ministers here, there's no politicians here to hear our messages.
I have seen a government official here. I was told that they weren't coming. No, that's fine. This is the wider industry speaking together. We have slightly different views. So it's good to have this sort of organisation. But this event. But I was talking to government officials yesterday. I will be tomorrow and next week. The Steel Council that was due to happen next week with the Secretary of State has been postponed. It hasn't been cancelled. Why? Because the new Secretary of State, Peter Kyle, is in the US. Great, because we want a US trade deal for steel. He's then going to China. Well, we have issues with China, and then he'll come back to the UK and needs to be briefed on the steel sector. So, I look forward to meeting the new Secretary of State. I'm sure he and his team will follow on from where fantastic Johnny Reynolds and Sarah Jones arrived at. But as I've said, the steel strategy needs to be a strategy of action, not intent and promises.
Let's leave it there, Gareth. It's brilliant to talk to you as ever. We could talk to you all day. We'll do a separate pod maybe on all of the challenges ahead of us. But I know you've got lots of other panels to go to, so we'll leave you to it and catch up soon. Great. All the best. Cheers, Gareth.